Okay, let's find something to react comment on. Come on, dude. Universe. Okay. Random kuts gesagt video. Let's react to it. I'm gonna take the quality down to 720p 60 and just check in OBS if everything is visible. Yep, we all good. We all good in the hood tonight. We all good in the hood tonight. Yay! Yay!
Space travel is the most exciting and challenging adventure humanity has ever undertaken.
But oceanic exploration would be much more easy. I mean, not easy. Oceanic exploration is something, it's more difficult than space travel, which is kind of crazy to think about. We know more about the cosmos than we know about our own planet, which is 70% water.
But in an irony of history, we may stop ourselves from going into space the more we do it. With every rocket launched and with every satellite deployed, we're creating a trap for ourselves that gets deadlier and more dangerous every year.
Yeah, so I can kind of see where they're going with this. Basically, and Starlink doesn't help at all with this. Fuck you, Elon Musk. Um, every time we launch a satellite into space, right, that creates an object in space. And we have this thing known as geostationary orbit, where a satellite kind of stays in the same position as the. So there's a satellite, there's the Earth, and the satellite kind of is stationary relative to the Earth, not really. But like we have low Earth orbit, where most of our satellites are, and those I think that's where most of the Starlink satellites are going. So we kind of need to, you know, we can't take like we there's debris in this orbit, and how would you get rid of that debris? It's just gonna stay there. And when satellites collide, even if a tiny little piece of debris, like the smallest asteroid, like maybe even a grain of sand, collides, like the amount of kinetic energy it has is enough to completely destroy that satellite. So it would create multiple shards, which then crash into other satellites. Exponential effect, you get it. Prison for humanity.
If it's ever activated, it could end the space age and trap it. We're creating a trap for ourselves that gets deadlier and more dangerous every year. If it's ever activated, it could end the space age and trap us on our planet for decades or even centuries.
Honestly, being trapped on the planet for decades or even centuries, like it might come across as an existential threat, but we as humans really do need to sort our shit out. So like I don't see that as being like the end of the world, you know?
Getting something into space is incredibly hard. To do so, you need to move very, very fast.
And you need to go up. Most people think rockets just go up. Rockets need to enter an orbit, right? So in order to enter this orbit is falling without hitting the ground, right? When you throw something, it creates a tiny little orbit. The only thing that differs from that thing is that it hits the ground. If you're able to throw something at, I think it's somewhere around 20,000 kilometers per second, it would come right around the earth and hit you in the back of the head. You know, like obviously ignoring air resistance and all of that, but there's physics, so air resistance is always negligible. But the rockets need to go up and sideways, they don't just go straight up.
At first straight up to leave the atmosphere, then sideways to begin a sort of circling around the Earth, still very, very fast. If you do that successfully, you can enter a low Earth orbit. And once in orbit, it's very hard to get out of orbit. Unless you have energy to spare, you're sort of locked in here, falling around the Earth forever.
Yeah, so in order to like change your orbit, from what I remember from Kerbal Space Program, and that was quite a while ago, you need to do something called like a retrograde burn or something like that. Like you need to use energy in order to change that orbit. Like there's no air resistance stopping you. You are constantly falling. Like like you need to use energy to get out of orbit, you know. There's actually been quite a recent development, and I don't know if this is relevant, but I watched Cleo Abrams. So, yes, I watch shorts. I know, sinful. I know. We actually successfully deliberately collided a satellite into an asteroid, and were able to change its path. And that's very optimistic because it provides kind of like an answer to asteroids that might, want to collide with the Earth at some point. Um, yeah, but that is not really relevant to that. Is there anyone watching? No one's watching. No one's watching. No one is watching. Yeah, that's fine.
That's great for things we want to stay up, like space stations and satellites. And so we moved the majority of humanity's space infrastructure to this place.
Yeah, because low Earth orbit. Space starts at well, space. The starting of space is quite arbitrary. Like, where does it start and end? We've defined it to be 100 kilometers above the Earth, like the surface of the Earth, or above sea level. But that's quite arbitrary. Like it could be 125, it could be 75 kilometers. Like we just kind of made up something, which is something scientists tend to do quite a lot. And obviously, low Earth orbit would be preferred because the further you go, more difficult it is to communicate because like transmissions are slower because they can only travel at the speed of a light, and it takes more energy to get into a higher orbit, so we want to be as efficient as we can with our fuel. However, this does have knock-on effects which will be shortly mentioned.
Just a few hundred kilometers above the surface. Just high enough so that the atmosphere is so thin that orbiting things can stay up for centuries before air resistance can slow them enough to bring them back to Earth. But this is also the source of our deadly trap.
Centuries.
Rockets are really metal cylinders that keep big piles of fuel in place.
The majority of the mass of a rocket is fuel. Like conventional rocket, whether it's burning hydrogen and oxygen, like it has hydrogen and oxygen reserves which burn together to create, hydrogen. Fuck, bro, I'm so sad I can't think. There's this thing known as the rocket equation, which kind of it limits the size that our rockets can get to, and it limits the like capacity of payload. The majority of the mass of a rocket is just fuel, which is why developments like ion thrusters and even rockets powered by nuclear power are amazing developments which will serve us quite well.
Whenever a portion of the fuel has been spent, the empty tanks are dropped to make the rocket lighter. Some parts crash down to Earth or burn up in the atmosphere. But most of the useless rocket parts stay up and begin to orbit the planet.
Oh dear.
After decades of space travel, low Earth orbit is a junkyard of spent boosters, broken satellites, and millions of pieces of shrapnel from missile tests and explosions.
And we think like space is big, right? But like everything has some kind of limit. Space is big, but if you're just considering low Earth orbit, like that's quite a limited space, especially if it's all within a certain like distance from the Earth. This might be a short stream actually, because as I see right now, I do not have any viewers, I don't have any chatters, and I did not have breakfast, so I need to have breakfast. So I might just react to this and then fucking go make something to eat.
Right now, we know of around 2,600 defunct satellites, 10,000 objects bigger than a monitor, 20,000 as large as an apple, 500,000 pieces the size of a marble, and at least 100 million parts so small they can't be tracked.
That is kind of like we can't grasp these numbers, right? This is from 5 years ago. Starlink has probably contributed massively. Actually, let me search. $25,000 near misses. Oh, they were forced to swerve. Okay, so they will. Starlink represents more than 85% of the expected risk to people on the ground and aviation from falling debris in the time frame. Oh, but you know what? If you're the richest man on earth, put everybody on earth at risk. Put our future in space at risk. You're immune.
This debris is moving at speeds of up to 30,000 kilometers per hour, circling Earth on crisscrossing orbits multiple times a day.
That almost looks like a. That almost looks like
Earth on crisscrossing.
Like that looks like the model of the atom. Like not Bohr's model of the atom, which just has concentric circles, but it looks like the model of the like electrons are not in orbits. We can't track the position of electrons. Like when we get down to that scale, we have to use quantum mechanics, and the basis of quantum mechanics is Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which basically states that if I can get the equation up here, yeah, so let me just scroll this to the side. So this might seem a little bit, but it's basically the uncertainty in position multiplied by the uncertainty in momentum is more than or equal to a very, very, very small number, albeit a number. H, which is already a small number, I think it's 6.62 times 10 to the negative 23 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. Divided by 4 times pi. So that small number divided by 3, 6, 9, 12. Divide a 12th of Heisenberg's, a 12th of Planck's constant. So basically, to put it in simple terms, the more you know about where something is, the less you know about its speed. The more you know about its speed, the less you know about where it is. So you can never for sure know the mass. You can never for sure be aware of the velocity and the position of something.
Orbits multiple times a day. Orbital speeds are so fast that being hit by debris the size of a pea is like being shot by a plasma gun.
Do plasma guns exist?
On impact, the debris vaporizes, releasing enough energy to punch holes straight through solid metal.
Damn.
So, we've covered the space around our planet with millions of deadly pieces of destruction. And we also put $1 trillion global infrastructure network right in the danger zone. It performs critical duties essential to the modern...
Again, that false representation of the atom. We really should have thought this through. But as humans, we tend not to think things through, so, yeah.
World, global communication, GPS and navigation, collecting weather data,
all extremely important
and all
things.
Manner of scientific discoveries. Things we would miss very much if they suddenly went away.
Miss very much. They would cause anarchy. Imagine GPS being gone. We depend. So who has a physical map right now? Nobody. I bet less than 1% of the people watching this actually own a physical map. You go onto Google Maps when you're trying to get somewhere, and if you detected video in your stream belonging to someone else, oh good god, shit, dude. Okay, I'm trying to pause as much as I can.
If just one pea-sized bullet hits one of our 1,100 working satellites, it will be destroyed
One
instantly.
instantly,
3 or 4
dude.
satellites are already being
Instantly.
destroyed this way every year.
Oh no, and that can only increase exponentially. 4, 16. Okay, I can't. I can't. My maths is not mathsing right now. I can't like cube 4, like, no, square 4, like, but it's an exponential. It's an exponential increase. Like if I go to Desmos, right, which is an extremely good graphing calculator. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Create an exponential graph. What's the x squared? Wait, x to the power of 2. Nope. What's the formula for... No, that... graph. Y is equal to ab to the power of x. What? If x is equal to a to the x. Oh, wait. So... a to the power of x. Okay, 4 to the power of x, yeah. So it will very, so you have, okay. Just this is exponential growth. It starts out almost at 0, it increases rapidly, until the line basically becomes vertical. So that's kind of where we're headed right now. The more pieces, like think about COVID, right? One person gets it, they spread it to 3 people, the 3 people spread it to 9 people, the 9 people spread it to, what's 9 squared? What's 9 squared? Yo, my mind is so clouded right now. Fuck it, bro.
The number of satellites and the amount of junk in orbit is expected to grow tenfold in the next decade. We're approaching a tipping point. But the worst thing in space is not tiny pieces of junk. The worst thing would be an unstoppable chain reaction that turns a lot of non-junk things into junk.
Yeah.
For example, if 2 satellites hit each other in just the right way. If satellites collide, they don't stop and fall out of the sky.
No, they do not. That is not how this works. That would require magic. That would literally require magic. You keep your momentum. That momentum would be kept, and although the path would be slightly misdirected and some would fall back down to Earth, I would expect the majority to remain up in space. You know, am I gonna get a copyright strike? Am I gonna get a copyright strike? Am I gonna get a copyright strike? Shit, dude. I don't fucking care, actually.
It's more of a splash than a crash. Orbital speeds are so fast, solid pieces spray right through each other, transforming the 2 satellites into clouds of thousands of little things still fast enough to destroy more satellites.
The kinetic energy of these things is
could trigger
crazy.
The slowest and most destructive sort of domino effect, a collision cascade.
Oh dear.
Like a shotgun spray, each collision creates more bullets. What was once a single...
Like, think about a nuclear chain reaction, right? Like that would cause, like when something goes super critical, such as like the Demon Core, that I'm sure you've all heard about, or like even a nuclear bomb, it's powered by a chain reaction. So you have this piece of fissile material, right, surrounded by conventional explosives that basically when they explode inwards, and they compress this uranium or plutonium or whatever this material is. They compress it to such a point that the neutrons that are spread out from one atom as it decays, like it releases 2 neutrons which hit 2 more atoms, therefore releasing 4 neutrons. All those 4 atoms that release 2 more neutrons. Like, dude, I'm not even sure if I should be streaming right now. Like, I'm just trying to distract myself, but fuck, bro. Oh, dude.
Little tiny target, very unlikely to hit anything, becomes a wall of destruction, hungry to make more.
Oh
As more
dear,
and more
let's not offer human properties to inanimate things, please. Please, not hungry. It's just exponential growth. It's just a consequence of physics.
satellites are destroyed, the destruction accelerates exponentially, eventually destroying
Yep.
everything parked in orbit. But space is very empty, so the first few collisions may take a long time.
Like I said, space is
By the
big,
time
but not that big when you're talking about low Earth orbit.
we
Like, I've made a comparison to hyperdrive. When you go into hyperdrive, right, faster than light travel, obviously you would not be able to move your spaceship, right? But the chances of you actually hitting something, because space is so massive, are so small that it's not really something to consider. What you would really need to consider, though, is entering the gravitational pull of something strong like a neutron star or a black hole, which would set you thousands and thousands of astronomical units, or maybe even light years, of course.
realize what's happening, it's too late. 1 year, 1 satellite is destroyed, and that's no big deal. The next year, 5. The year after, 50, until there's nothing left.
No.
The situation in orbit is rapidly
Flatten the curve, guys. I mean, I don't know how you would flatten this kind of curve. There is no staying inside. Like, how would you physically prevent this from continuing? Like, unless you went out and, like, used some sort of collector or tractor beam, which is a part of science fiction. I always thought the tractor beam was... I mean, we can kind of suspend tiny particles in laser light. I'm not kind of fully sure of the physics behind that, but it is possible.
worse.
I don't think I'm gonna finish this video, guys. Like, I feel like absolute shit right now, and I don't have viewers. So, wait. I'm sure if Kurzgesagt watches this live, they'll take it as fair use. And if they don't, I will, like, I'm literally offering extra insight. Like, I'm not just watching the video and sitting and, like, doing nothing. Like other YouTubers or reaction channels that don't really offer much to the video.
And we may already be past the point of no return. Within 10 years, space around Earth may no longer be viable for long-term satellites or rockets. The worst-case scenario is horrifying. A debris field made of hundreds of millions of pieces, many too small to track, moving at 30,000 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, it would be extremely dangerous to launch a satellite. Like, the risk associated with launching... Say, like, thank God we got the James Webb Space Telescope out before this becomes an issue, because it's very rapidly becoming an issue.
It would effectively create a deadly barrier around Earth, possibly too dangerous to cross.
Like, if you're putting billions and billions and billions of dollars into creating a spaceship, I'm not too sure if you'd want to take that risk, you know, like just it being exploded, destroyed, before it can even complete its mission, before it, like, while it might even be visible. The collision may even be visible from the surface of Earth, which would be quite a sight, but it would also be quite sad.
Dreams of moon bases, Mars colonies, or space travel at all may be set back centuries. And the loss of our space infrastructure...
Maybe that would give... He's calling Saul! Oh, thank you for lifting my mood, cause you better call Saul, dude. Yeah.
would send some of the technology we rely on daily back to the 1970s. But it might not be too late to clean up our mess. While the space industry has become better at avoiding space junk, it's still growing fast, and occasional weapon tests don't help. So there have been a couple of wild but also serious suggestions about how to quickly remove as much
This
deadly
I'm
space
very
junk as
interested
possible
in. Like,
without
how would you
creating more in
even
the
do
process.
that?
Lots of ideas are being thrown around, and some of the most seriously considered involve capture and return missions, which are being tested now.
But how though? Like at these speeds, how would you capture something? Because as they previously stated, something the size of a pea moving at that speed, you'd need like how? Like tell me how.
One method involves meeting a piece of junk in orbit with a small satellite loaded with a net. Once caught, a small rocket could be used to bring it down towards Earth.
It's not static though. Like it's not static, it's moving. So how would you capture it without risking the net being destroyed, or let alone the satellite itself being destroyed? How would you do that?
Targets too large for a net might be instead caught with a harpoon on a tether. Instead of firing a rocket, the cleaner would deploy a large sail to reduce atmospheric drag and accelerate orbital decay. And there are lots of other wild sci-fi sounding proposals too.
That definitely sounds like science fiction. Magnets might be our best bet, honestly. I can't believe I didn't think of that. Because, like, I don't know how much of a space station or, like, satellite would be made of iron. I assume not much. It would probably be made from aircraft grade aluminum. Like, but obviously there needs to be some iron in it, and if you have a strong enough magnet, you could pull it back down to Earth without making direct contact with it. That's probably the most viable solution.
Some might use giant electromagnets. These magnetic tugs work by pushing on the magnetic components inside satellites that they use to stabilize and orientate themselves in Earth's magnetic field.
It should be noted, however, that all of these experiments involve putting more things in low Earth orbit, which presents a massive risk. So it would need to be very carefully planned out with risk management involved.
These may be safer and more reliable than nets and harpoons
Yeah.
because they never have to make contact with the junk they're handling, so there's no risk of accidentally breaking up their target into more junk.
This is a blind reaction, dude. Like, I'm just providing insight, and I feel like I'm mind reading what the video is about to say, but like, yeah, torture of intelligence, whatever. Breekgat.
As for the tiniest bits of junk, lasers might be the key to vaporizing them entirely. Satellites with lasers wouldn't need to visit their targets, they can shoot them from far away.
Whoa. Yeah, so many ideas didn't come into my head. Like, yeah, if you vaporize it just using a high power laser, like, okay, we don't have I don't think we have lasers of this power yet, but it is a theoretical solution. Like lasers and magnets, I think I'm the biggest advocate for.
Large objects can't exactly be shot down, but lasers can be used to ablate them or burn tiny amounts of material off the side to push the junk to a safer orbit.
Okay, so you're not entirely vaporizing it, because that would take so much, like a lot of things. But if you, so like if you've ever seen one of those massive like magnifying glasses, Fresnel lenses, that are in CRT TVs, which by the way, if anyone has an old big like box TV that they would like to send me, and preferably lives in South Africa, please hit me up on Reddit or like Instagram. It should be pretty easy to find me. Like, I really want to make a Fresnel lens, but that's beside the point. Basically, yeah, you would burn off the side of the thing, and that, like, you would burn, like, that would, kind of shoot off stuff, creating momentum, which would, in a way, indirectly create a burn, which can change its orbit and maybe bring it back down to Earth. Dog, I'm so hungry and I'm so sad. Let's get through this video.
Whatever technology we use in the end, we better start doing something soon. Before 100 million bullets become a trillion and the trap is set. If we don't act, our adventure in space might end before it's even begun.
Aww.
If our days of dreaming about space exploration might be numbered anyway, we better put them to good use. One of the things we most like to spend our time on is learning more about our
Brilliant.
universe. And to do that, you
Brilliant.
can just keep watching. Kurzgesagt and
Haha! I always know. Interesting how the brilliant logo kind of represents the topic of this video. That's kind of interesting. Um, yeah. Anyways, dude, half an hour stream. What the hell did I just do? What the hell did I just? Did I just terminate my stream? Did I just terminate my stream? It says I'm still live, but I accidentally went back. Start. Go. Are we live? You should be live. Yeah, dude, so I gotta eat. I gotta like give myself some time. Um yeah, today is not a good day. Yesterday was not a good day, but we fight through it. Thank you everyone for being here with me. Whoever watches this afterwards, I hope I don't down your day. I hope I provided sufficient insight. Thank you so much. Have a great time. Deuces.